Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is our presentation about CPOTB aspect. We are from the first group of IP class batch 2022. Our group, which is the first group, consists of four members. The first one is me myself. My name is Muhammad Taqiyuddin Al Faruqi. And the second member is Erlangga Prabowo. The third member is Yola Andari. And the last member is Zulaika Zamri. So about CPOTB, CPOTB is actually the short form of cara pembuatan obat tradisional yang baik, which is the regulation is released by the BPOM or Badan Pengawasan Obat dan Makanan Republic of Indonesia. And in this slide, we show the example of the first page of CPOTB. Entering the chapter 1, it is about the traditional medicine industry quality system or SMIOT. This chapter explaining the basic principles of quality systems that must be implemented by the traditional medicine industry. And the main content of this chapter is consist of SMIOT objectives, which is to guarantee the quality, safety, and effectiveness of products. And then the key elements is quality management CPOTB or GMP, good manufacturing practices, and quality risk management or MRM, and then establishing the responsibilities of top management, quality assurance, and importance of documentation and supervision. And the last is quality control and product quality assessment are conducted periodically to ensure consistency in production result. Entering the next chapter, which is chapter 2, explaining about personnel. This chapter focusing on human resources and organizational structure, and the main content is IoT must have sufficient, competent, and trained personnel. And also there are should be three key personnel, which is the first is head of production and head of quality control or QC and head of quality assurance or QA, which is recruited for responsible pharmacies. And then regulate the duties, responsibilities, and independence of each head of department. And fourth, training must be conducted continuously and documented. Fifth, establish rules on hygiene, health checks, and prohibitions on unhygienic behavior. And the last is consultants must have adequate qualifications and experience. Continuing to the next chapter, chapter 3, explaining about buildings and facilities. It is regulate the requirements for traditional medicine production, buildings, and facilities. And the main content of this chapter is the design and location must prevent cross contaminations and facilitate cleaning. And then the layout of production, storage, and laboratory areas must be logical and efficient, establishing room cleanliness classes like 1A, 1B, 2, and 3 according to product risk levels, and then regulating ventilations, lighting, temperature, humidity, and sanitation systems. And then storage productions and quality control areas must be separate and controlled. And the last is establishing sanitation procedure, pest control, and facility maintenance. Proceeding to the next chapter, chapter 4, it discussed about equipment. And this chapter outlines the requirements for the design, construction, use, and the maintenance of equipment in traditional medicine manufacturing. And the equipment used in this industry must be properly designed, sized, and qualified to ensure consistent product quality. All contact surfaces must prevent contamination or unwanted reactions, and also damaged equipments must be clearly labeled or removed from production areas. And then we should also pay attention to cleaning and sanitation procedures since it must be written, validated, and regularly performed to avoid cross contamination, ensuring all equipment remains clean and ready for safe use.
In Chapter 5, which is telling about production, this chapter details the requirement for all production activities, emphasizing the raw material from natural source. Also, these natural sources must be clearly defined, documented from the source, and quarantine until approved by the quality control. Production must follow established procedure and also implementing validation for critical gens and eventually utilize quality risk management or QRM to prevent the cross contamination and mix ups, especially when you doing a weighing and packaging operation, which require a mandatory line clearance through in process control or IPC. In chapter 6, it's telling about good traditional drug storage and shipping practice, which in this chapter focus on maintaining product quality and integrity after manufacturing by establishing strict control for storage and shipping process, which also which are also considered part of the supply chain. All activities must adhere to the CPOTB principle, which is requiring comprehensive and accessible documentation for all action, and mandatory to do a formal process, right, which is a written contracts for any outsourced storage or shipping activities to ensure the compliance. In chapter 7, which is telling about the quality control, this chapter defines the independent quality control or QC department responsibility, which firstly are span sampling, setting specification, testing, and final product release. The QC must utilize segregated laboratories with validated analysis method, maintain a mandatory environmental monitoring programs like water, air, and microbiology, also enforce the strict retesting for material that exceeds storage limit, and operate an ongoing stability program to monitor product quality throughout its shelf life. In Capital Act, self-inspection, quality audit, and supplier approval audit. This chapter outlines the system for internal and external evaluation to ensure continuous adherence to CPOTB standard. The self-inspection, or it can be called as internal audit, must be conducted by a competent and independent team at least annually to identify weakness across all areas, which include production, KC, facilities, and documentation, with the overall audit program focused on establishing necessary corrective action for any detected deficiency. And Chapter 9, it explain about a complaint and product recall, which provide the framework for handling market issue, requiring that all customer complaint be meticulously reviewed, investigate, and document by the designated personnel. The company must maintain a validated system and written procedure for the quick and effective product recall of batch with quality defects, clearly identifying and storing recall product in a segregated and secure area while the recall system effectiveness is periodically checked, for example, through mock recalls.
The next, I will explain about chapter 10, focus on storage and distribution. All material must be stored under proper condition like temperature and humidity control to maintain product quality. We also need separate storage areas for rejected or recalled material to avoid mix-up. For distribution, every batch must be approved by the quality unit before being sent out. During transport, conditions such as temperature or humidity must be maintained according to product requirement. And finally, the manufacturing must ensure that the transport contractor understands this requirement, and the company must have a recall-ready system for any defective product. And then the next chapter describe how quality control ensures that all product meet required specification. Quality control or QC must be operated independently with proper lab facility. Every step, from sampling to testing, must follow documented procedure. If any deviation or out of specification result occurs, it must be investigated carefully. Each batch must have a certificate of analysis to verify that it meets all standards. To ensure that product stability, Quality control conducts stability testing and store retention sample in case retesting is needed later. This system ensures ongoing product reliability and compliance with CPOTB. This is Capture 12 call for validation, which ensures that all equipment and process consistently produce project meeting quality standard. Validation starts from the design phase and continue throughout the product lifecycle. There are four main stages. The type of qualification. The first is design qualification. It verifies design suitability. Installation qualification. This is confirm proper installation. And then the next is operational qualification. This is to ensure proper function. And then the last is performance qualification. This is to confirm the consistent result. And then the next chapter is to explain the importance of change control. Every change, whether in material, equipment, method, or packaging, must be properly reviewed and approved before implementation. Each change is classified based on its impact, minor or major. For major changes, additional testing or revalidation might be required. All documentation must be updated and the review batch after the change must be evaluated for quality consistency. If any modification could affect the final product, the manufacturer must also inform the user or client. Chapter 14 deals with rejection and reuse of material. Product or material that fail quality test must be labeled and placed in quarantine. Reject material can be reprocessed or reworked only under control procedure. Reprocessing and reworking allow only after investigation and approval. Reward product must meet equivalent quality as the original. Impurity profile must match the original batch. And then for the solvent recovery and returns, recovered solvents may be reused if they meet standard. Retold product must be evaluated, reprocessed, or destroyed. A return must be fully documented.
Next, I will explain Chapter 15 of CPOTB, which discusses complaints and product recall. In this section, it is stated that all product quality complaints, whether received verbally or in writing, must be recorded and investigated according to a written procedure. The complaint record should include details such as the name and address of the complaint, contact information, nature of the complaint and batch number, date received, and any action and final decision taken. These records are essential for evaluating trends, frequency, and severity of complaints, allowing the company to take corrective and preventive action. Regarding product recall, CPOTB requires a written procedure that defines when and how a recall should be initiated, who is responsible, and how the recalled products are handled. In serious or life-threatening situation, BPOM or international authorities must be notified immediately and consulted for further action. And next is Chapter 16 of CPOTB, which discusses contracted manufacturers, including laboratories. This chapter explains that any contract acceptor must fully comply with CPBAOTB and pay special attention to preventing cross contamination and ensuring traceability. The contract giver is responsible for evaluating the acceptor's compliance with GMP before the work begins. A written and approval agreement must clearly define the responsibilities of both parties, especially regarding product quality. The contract should also allow the giver to audit the acceptor's facility whenever necessary. Subcontracting can only be done with prior evaluation and approval. All manufacturing and laboratory records must be stored at the contract site and no process changes may be made without the giver's consent. And for chapter 17, this chapter explains the responsibilities of agents, distributors, and repackaging or relabeling companies. They must comply with CPAOTB and ensure full product traceability, quality management, and safe handling. All information, complaints, and recalls must be properly recorded and coordinated with the original manufacturer and BPOM. So this is chapter 18, which focuses on specific guidelines for BAOT produced through cell culture or fermentation. This chapter applies to product made using natural or recombinant organism, and it follows the general CPBAOTB principle, but with the stricter control for biotechnology processes like recombinant proteins and peptides. It also distinguishes between biotechnology processes which use recombinant DNA or hybridoma technology to produce large molecules, and classical fermentation, which produce smaller molecules such as amino acid or vitamins. The key points here are about process control, maintaining cell banks properly, controlling parameters like temperature and pH, and ensuring all equipment and environment are sterile to prevent microbial or viral contamination. And then lastly, the harvesting and purification step must also be carefully controlled to maintain product consistency and quality, including validating viral removal and preventing any cross contamination. So, to conclude, according to the Indonesian FDA regulation number 25 of 2021, every traditional medicine manufacturer must apply CPOTB or good traditional medicine manufacturing practice. This regulation ensures that all products produced are safe, effective, and of consistent quality. It also pushes the traditional medicine industry to maintain good documentation, following standardized procedure, and continuously improve their production quality. In the end, implementing CPOTB helps protect consumers and strengthens the reputation of Indonesia's traditional medicine, both nationally and internationally. Okay, that's all from our group. Thank you.